So we're making a nice end grain cutting board today, and sometimes it's helpful to use poster board to figure out what pattern you'd like to have in your final project. We're using some nice Padauk and Walnut lumber today, and that'll give a subtle color variation between the orange Padauk and the darker Walnut. We'll start just resizing things and getting them ready to rough mill, run them through the jointer and planer, and the goal here is to basically make 2 long grain cutting boards. Once we have those glued up, we'll go ahead and cut them into strips and arrange them the way we like them for the end grain cutting board. You may notice that our 2 long grain cutting boards have a different pattern. One has 2 wide strips of Padauk and the other has 2 narrow strips. And that way we won't have to offset the parts as we assemble them. We'll simply align the edges and the pattern will be developed automatically as we put this end grain cutting board together. As you get close to the end of your cuts on this crosscut sled, switch over and use the rip fence on your table saw to make that last cut in a safe fashion. Once you have the end grain cutting board glued up, it's nice to run it through the drum sander, smooth things up. Now I really advise against putting the end grain cutting board through a planer, especially if you're running equipment with straight knives. It's asking for the machine to destroy the cutting board at a minimum. Might do damage to your machine or worse, so save yourself the trouble and just run it through a drum sander instead. That's the safest way to do it. Once the 2 faces are cleaned up, go ahead and trim up the edges at the table saw and create a little routed handle in the underside with a shop-made template. Now this is great to have this little handhold when you're moving your cutting board around. These thick cutting boards are pretty heavy, so it's a nice little feature to add on to your project. Once you've given the board a nice sanding, we'll go ahead and wipe on a butcher block conditioning oil. This will darken the wood and bring out the rich colors that we've got in some of these exotics. And I think whatever you use, just make sure it's a food safe finish. After all, this is a cutting board, so you want to make sure it's a food safe finish. But there's all kinds of cutting boards you can make, and just let your creativity guide you. Jump in and see what kind of fun project you can make. I think woodworking is a really creative endeavor, and there's really no limit to it. So just jump in and give it a try. See what kind of great cutting board you can come up with. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.